Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Heal and Evolve podcast. Today, I'm with my beautiful, gorgeous, good friend, Hannah, who is a qualified pediatric sleep consultant, helping families improve their baby and toddler sleep. Jesus, I wish I had you back in the day, Han. In her spare time, she's also finalizing, and I think finished now, almost finished, her advanced certification in nutritional counseling, specializing in women and children. And this includes from prenatal and postpartum to early childhood, adolescence, perimenopause, that's me at the moment, and beyond. Hannah is an absolute shining light in this industry, so knowledgeable. She walks the talk, and I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome, Hannah.
Yay, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me, Des.
Of
Finally.
course, finally. So look, I wanted to start off where I'm always fascinated by people's journeys and why they do what they do. So what
Mhm.
led you, and you can begin, I'm guessing it's a long story, but you can begin wherever you want. So what led you to study sleep therapy and nutritional counseling?
So I'll consolidate it for you. So, long story short, I grew up in a household where food was just the number one thing that brought us together. The first thing we did when we were eating breakfast, we were talking about dinner. Food's always been a part of my life, right? But I was a fairly overweight child. I had boobs when I was 4, essentially. And it's not because my parents were just feeding us crap all the time, but we just didn't know better. And food's always been a driver, right? Come I turned 12 years old, and I remember weighing 96 kilograms. Right. And on my birthday,
12.
my parents, 12.
Yeah.
And my parents gave me a gym membership. And at the time, I remember being really upset by that. But it really started me on this journey to learning about nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in saying that, that's me going into my teen years, right? So when you're eating and fueling your body, you take things to the extremes.
Yeah.
So that then led me to 15, 16, 17, where I'd lost a lot of weight, but I wasn't eating healthily. So if you had to put avocado on my plate, I would have gone, nah, too much fat in it. So
Wow.
I was going through years of body dysmorphia, not really understanding nutrition. When back into my 20s, things went the opposite way and I gained a lot of weight again. So I've been on this journey my whole life where food's always been an obsession for me and health and well-being's always been an obsession. But it came in my 20s when I was in the corporate world in recruitment, where I actually studied exercise and sport nutrition coaching. And that really kind of ignited my, wow, food is more than just enjoyment. It's actually medicine and how we're fueling our bodies. And I was working out. I've been working out, well, as I mentioned, since I was 12, at least. So how we incorporate those. Now, really, health and nutrition and all that stuff has always been a prominent part of my life. But it wasn't until I really found out that I was pregnant with our first that my whole world just exploded. My mind shift changed. We weren't, trying for a baby. He just happened, and it was right in the middle of COVID. And funnily enough, I just finished an Ayurvedic detox, which completely reset my body, which was amazing. But as a result, now I've got
You got
2
pregnant.
boys. Yeah, I got pregnant, with my first son. So it was then that I was like, oh my God, everything that I'm putting into my body, it's not just me anymore. It's him too. And so there, just the explosion of, passion for fueling your body came about. Then he turned 7 months and I was really struggling with sleep. And I had a really shit day with him, and I put him in the cot more firmly than I should have. And I knew I needed help, and I ended up sleep training him. And in turn, I ended up sleep training our youngest as well. And there is such a common derivative that good sleep and nutrition, but equals a more regulated person, a more regulated parent. And more people lately, more so mums, have been coming up to me going, how do you fit it in? How do you have time to cook? How do you have time to fit this in? How do you have time to exercise? And to me, longevity is everything for me, right? Not just for adults, but for kids. But I was like, the only way that this is happening is I've optimized nutrition and sleep, and not just my sleep and nutrition, but my children's. And so that came together. I decided to do my pediatric sleep qualification through the Institute of Paediatric Sleep and Parenting, which is one of the only internationally recognized bodies. Australia actually doesn't have a recognized body for sleep, which is why I chose them. Yeah, Australia doesn't have one. So that's why I went through them. And so here I am. And there is such a strong correlation between fussy eating, poor sleep, poor nutrition, poor sleep. And to me, it really is about longevity for both me and my kids, because sleep contributes to so many different factors in our lives.
Absolutely. I know me personally, if I don't sleep well, and there was even one stage of my life when Phoenix was young, and I was eating all the right foods, my diet hadn't changed, my supplements hadn't changed, I was doing all the things health-wise, physical-wise, but I was breastfeeding, and I was up every like 1 to 2 hours. My sleep was broken. And I got an autoimmune attack simply because I don't think I slept for about 2 years. So sleep trumps everything. And I even noticed it, which, so many parents, you probably heard this so many times from parents, even if Phoenix now, I protect his sleep. He's 9 now, so I protect it like my life depends on it. And so many people, just be flexible and they can stay up. And I'm like, no, because he goes to bed at 7 or even 6:30 sometimes, depending on what he's got on. Latest 7:30. Unless he's unwell, he sleeps all the way through, and bazinga, he's up at 5:36 going. But I protect that, because even 1 or 2 hours less sleep, I notice the meltdowns. He wants to eat more. He's craving more salty food. And he's a child. And I know I'm like that. So I love that you're in this field, and I'm so excited to watch you, in you in this space, because I think it's a no-brainer, and especially for kids, Han, because it sets the foundations for kids as you grow. So look, let's run through first, and we can do this in two different ways, or you might want to pop them both in the same category because they're so intertwined. But what are some of your core nutritional principles for kids? And
I think it's go.
Tell me how that, but we can head this later, how that conflicts with the standard healthy eating models.
Well,
I love the eye roll, by the way.
Look, to be honest with you, and I say this all the time, and I've said it to you in our conversations in the past, you shouldn't need a degree for what you want to feed your kids, for what you feed your kids. It really should be common sense. But look, every person's version of common sense is really different. So the principles that I live by are a whole food, nutrient-dense diet. That's really the nuts and bolts of it. And when I'm packing my kids' lunchboxes, you won't see any wrappers in my lunchbox. And that's for two different reasons. One, I'm really mindful of xenoestrogens going into my kids' food, so things like plastics, etc. And two, I just want them to have whole foods generally out of our fridge and our pantry. So the things that I give them really is protein is the basis of their diet. It is fundamental. And can I tell you, myself and my eldest today had a headbutt war, because today, which I never do, but he conned me into it. He wanted eggs on his toast, and I usually do eggs then toast. And I was like, all right, but you got to eat them both. Guess what he didn't eat? His eggs.
He didn't have the eggs.
We had a war, and I was like, you know what? We're not doing this again. This has been our learning. So yeah, protein is number one. Now we've got really good carbohydrates, which are essential as well. So I'm talking, yes, white potatoes, because white potatoes are fantastic for your health, despite what they say. It's got more potassium actually than a banana, would you believe?
I love that you said that.
Yeah, sweet potatoes are huge. A really good organic sourdough bread is fundamental. A good quality rice. I will let them on occasion. I know that sounds really bad when I say that. I will let them on occasion. But a solid muesli, but it has to be packed with yogurt. And they have to have eggs or something on the side of it as well. And they've got berries too. And of course, fruits and vegetables. I'm sure Phoenix is the same. I'm lucky that my kids eat vegetables, but that's from reinforcement and recognition. Repetition. It doesn't happen by accident. And fruit.
And just quickly on that, I just want to throw a quick question, ask your opinion on this, because I'm guessing you ate well and these foods during your pregnancy too, right? Yeah. And I think that has a direct correlation with their taste buds palate.
It 100% does. And so even preconception as well. But what you eat when you are pregnant has a direct correlation on your kids' DNA and what their preferences are for food. So that is exactly right. Now, that's not to say that during my first trimester, I wasn't like, the smell of cooking makes me sick. That was definitely true. I was lucky that I didn't, vomit or anything like that. I didn't have extreme morning sickness. So I was lucky. But yeah, you are exactly right. I really did prioritize good health. Although I remember Dan will never forget when I was 8 weeks pregnant with our eldest, I was craving KFC. I had a massive headache, and you should have heard the mouth noises coming out of me when I got this 2-piece feed. Like, it was like nothing else. But I only did it once. But exactly right. It was a nutrient-dense diet. And in fact, choline is one of the most single important nutrients in a pregnant person's or pregnant women's diet, because it directly impacts their kids' genetics, their genes, and their brains, putting together the cell membranes. So choline is so important, and eggs are fundamental to that.
I love that.
So does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, we've overcomplicated nutrition so much.
It doesn't need to be that complicated.
It doesn't need to be a new fad or diet or this or that. And, the corporate companies come and get involved into it. And it's just so confusing for parents. And, even the labeling in the grocery store, like, it's ridiculous. So I love that your principles are so simple, and it can be that simple. What do you, I guess, recommend, or have you experienced or, heard any stories about kids with fussy eating before, and does that have a correlation with the gut, or what do you think?
I think fussy eating, it's a really big conversation, to be honest with you, because I think it comes in so many different forms. So in our household, food is the basis of life, right? But I relished in when solids came around. I loved it for both the boys. It's so exciting. I still do. And when they throw food on the floor, I've got a 19-month-old as well. It's like the most triggering thing in the world. I hate it.
I said that to Phoenix the other day, because I'm like you, the lunchboxes, I cut up the sweet potato and put the coconut oil and roast it to make these nice sweet potato chips to put in his lunchbox. And I carefully, have the protein and the chickens and the boiled egg, and again, no wrappers. And sometimes when he comes home, and I feel bad, I have to check myself because like, Phoenix,
I know.
And luckily, touch wood, 90% of the time he polishes it off. But there's, sometimes
depends how hungry
to play more. Depends how hungry they are. And and I have to catch myself, because I'm like, Phoenix, do you know how much work I put in this lunchbox? Do you know how lucky you
are? I know. It's so hard.
So I get the food throwing on the floor. You poor thing.
Drives me mad. So fussy eating, back to what you asked me, my brain came back together. So for us, it's really about introducing foods really when they're ready to eat. So from solids readiness, essentially. And baby-led weaning was huge for us. I loved it. I relished in it. And it was just about introducing, all the foods where possible, so that the kids are getting used to those different tastes and textures from a really young age. I understand that everyone has their own theories and methodologies about allergens. wasn't something I was overly concerned about. I was more a little bit nervous about it when introducing to our first and our second. Second time around, I wasn't too bothered. But both Dan and I don't have any allergens to food. So just introducing those at an earlier age. I did do when our eldest, he was about to start solids and I was freaking out about choking. I did a first aid course as well. That really kind of helped my mind get together as well. And then as they get older, I think we need to be mindful of our own anxieties going on to kids as well, and our own food preferences getting put on to them. Yeah. So without pissing off a whole community, when we're vegetarian as adults, we need to be really mindful that we are feeding and fueling little people as well. So even exposing them to things like, your lamb chops, your chicken, whatever that might be, these are all really important in preventing fussy eaters as well too. Repetition is huge. So they might not eat it at first, they might not eat it at second, they might not eat it in a fried egg form, but they'll eat it in a scrambled egg form. It's all about repetition. It's also about kind, firm boundaries. So in our household, it's this really or nothing else. That's essentially what it is. My kids do ask for ice cream, even though they don't get it. And the answer, plain and simply, is no. Your body doesn't know how to process sugar. And to put it for everyone there, I've got a 4-year-old and a 19-month-old, right? So our 4-year-old had his first taste of ice cream about 6 months ago, and it was a clean version, right? But he knows that they're sometimes foods. And he also we're having those conversations about how foods make us feel.
Love it.
And so that's the really important thing. And he has gone to a party and had, your chocolate cake here and there. And then I said, you can have it, but let's have a conversation about how you feel afterwards. 15 minutes later, he had that chocolate cake. He's like, Mommy, my tummy hurts. So he's aware of that. So those are little things that we combat fussy eating as well too.
Yeah, I love that. And it's you can talk from experience because you walk the talk, you live and breathe this. And even for, our kids are very similar. I had no sugar introduced to Phoenix's diet at all, and then I'm like, okay, when he starts school and sport, I'll let him just join in. Don't want to deprive him. So, his first football game, they're all like reaching for the snakes, and I was like, yeah, go darling, go and try one. And so he grabbed it, and then he turns around, he's like,
well, that's almost a good thing.
Yeah,
I know. But it's so funny because my son, my oldest, he asked me to make cake for him. Can I tell you, every time I've made a cake of sorts, banana bread, whatever that might be, he doesn't want it. He eats it and he doesn't like it. Yeah. And I make
so
it like the most, isn't that funny? Their taste buds do that. So yeah,
and
they
starts from young, doesn't it, Han? Because if we introduce
so
packet food when babies and all the processed stuff, they naturally get a taste for it, then they build tolerance and they crave it. It starts in the womb, as you said.
It absolutely 100% starts in the womb, and that's why we need to be fueling our bodies when we're pregnant.
Yeah. And so why do you think, because you would hope that this would be common knowledge to women, but it's not. It's not like you sit down with your GP or anything like that and, you're like, yeah, I'm so excited, I'm pregnant, and they talk to you about nutrition and food and how to fuel and how to eat to get the best possible, outcomes, etc. What are your thoughts in terms of mainstream nutritional guidelines for mums and kids?
Well, all I can say without getting too political, but I wish we had an RFK driving the food pyramid like they do in America. Look, doctors and GPs, their foundation isn't to study nutrition as a starting point. We also have got this old school food pyramid model, right? But I'll also put it even in my studies as well, which is really hard for me not to rebut. But when we're talking about diabetes prevention and even in pregnancy, one of the things that they promote is eating whole grains or 8 servings of whole grains. Whole grains, 100%, yeah, they 100% have their place, right? For sure. But whole grains, they essentially turn straight into glucose. We get the sugar spikes. That's not going to help anybody with diabetes. Yes, absolutely have some whole foods, some whole grains, but we're not looking at 8 servings. Like, let's balance that out a little bit. So when we're talking about, for mums and dads and nutrition and the modern guidelines, I don't think everyone can only work within their capacity, right? And for a lot of people, it's not their priority. Food is just filling them up. Food's just to fill the stomach. To me, food is fuel. Food is longevity. Food is just the mechanism to get through life and functioning optimally. And so that's why it's important to me. But I think we need to place a bigger importance in daycares, in schools, in high schools. We need to be educating, look, boys and girls, but I've got a strong interest in females and making sure that they're fueling their hormones, because that is such a pivotal time in their life. So we need to be starting the dialogue really young. But I do think parents need to take a bigger responsibility. They can't expect their kids to behave, I should say, if we're not fueling them properly. And can I tell you, my children are nutsos sometimes, but they're nutsos because they're normal kids, not because they're getting fueled by sugar or glyphosate or whatever that might be.
Yeah, I love that you said that, especially removing that emotional connection to food, because it starts young. We are taught that, if we hurt ourselves, oh, would you like a lolly to, get over that boo-boo? And, when we're happy and we're celebrating, it all revolves around food. Or birthdays, it's about, oh, what's in the party bag? And instead of the play and the social connection and the actual event. And so the principles that you have, that fuel, food is fuel, and removing that emotional connection makes such a difference, especially growing
that's
into
hard though,
adulthood.
Des, because food is love for me. So food is an emotional connection for me. So this is the hard part. So I do think we can have a strong correlation with attaching food to emotion, because there are a lot of happy moments in people's life where they come together via food, birthdays, gatherings, whatever that might be. But we really, at the same time, I think we just need to be mindful that we're here to fuel our bodies as well. So I think they need to work together.
Yeah, brilliant. And so what would you look at for, because I know that lunch boxes, and we're going to move into the sleep area soon, but I know that lunch boxes are, problematic. I hear it over and over again from mums. Oh God, I'm sick of doing the lunch boxes. What do I put in the lunch boxes? And sometimes the stuff that I hear them put in the lunch boxes, I am horrified. There's not one bit of natural bit of protein or food in there. What does, as a general guideline, just a quick snapshot, and I know on your socials you've got amazing pictures as well, what does a healthy lunchbox look like for you?
So a healthy lunchbox for me looks like protein to help fill the tummies and get them through the day, is a really prominent energy source. And look, sausages are so easy. They are also a processed food, so we have to be mindful of where we get our sausages from. But I'll take a sausage over a Jatz cracker any day, right? And they're easy to cook. Kids love them, come in all different varieties and flavors. But egg frittatas, for instance, are also a great option. So I'm looking at protein, so a few protein sources. Then we want to add a quality carbohydrate source in there as well. And I'm talking that might be a really good homemade, no, I shouldn't say homemade because I don't make my own, I'm terrible at it, a really good sourdough bread with avocado on there, or even, a quality nut butter as well. That's going to fuel their bodies for the day. We want a good variety of omegas and omegas, fruits and vegetables, which are essential for them. So go with your seasonal produce too. So that's a lunchbox. So you've got your protein, your carbohydrates, and your fruit and veggies. If you want to add a bit of cheese in there as well for dairy and calcium, which is super important as well, that makes up a full lunchbox. We don't need to complicate it more than it is. And simply you can go to your fridge and find a full lunchbox in there just by grabbing leftovers. My kids today were left with leftover meatballs, grass-fed meatballs that we made, some leftover grilled chicken thighs. My eldest and I, we made egg frittatas with leftover prosciutto. Yes, we made some pizzas the other day. I just utilized some of that. They had some olives in there, which are full of omegas. And I did some homemade almond crackers as well, which adds extra protein in too. So I think those are the bases that we'd go by.
Brilliant. I love that. So let's move into sleep now. And so
Mhm.
how about just quickly the correlation between your diet and how it affects sleep, especially in little ones? I mean, it's all intertwined, isn't it?
It is
Adults,
really
women,
intertwined.
kids, same thing.
Yeah.
So how does the diet affect your and what you eat affect your sleep quality?
Well, it is twofold, and there's so many different variants that go into it. But essentially, let's even go back to babies when they're born, right?
Hmm.
They're not getting fed, so they're not sleeping. So essentially, if they don't have the fuel, so the calories during the day, nighttime is absolute hell. So we can just bring it back to basics that kids need to be fueled to sleep better. There is a really strong correlation between iron deficiency and poor
Oh,
sleep as well.
interesting.
Um, there also are strong associations between B12 deficiency and insomnia as well too. So they're
Really?
not causations, yeah, but they're associations. I will also say this as well, that the same goes for autism, which we can tap on into a little bit later, and infertility and
Yeah.
MS diagnosis. And there's a lot of stuff that people aren't looking into from a nutritional standpoint that are affecting other aspects of our lives.
Interesting.
So that's probably one of the biggest things that I would suggest is if we're not fueling our bodies during the day, we're not going to be able to fuel and restore our bodies for optimal sleep. So that's probably the biggest thing.
I love that. And as a sleep uh, counseling therapist and a sleep expert, what are your principles or foundations? And this might be so big because I know it would differ depending on each person. Everyone's circumstances would be so different.
Yeah.
Every child would be so different. I guess
Yeah.
as a general guideline, I mean, I don't really know anything about it apart from, how many hours and how it affects the next day in
Mm-hmm.
terms of personality and mood. But what are the guidelines in terms of kids? Like, how much should kids be sleeping, and are there certain times in terms of age groups, and what can help them? Which, yeah, I guess I'll let
Mm-hmm.
you guide that.
Well, there are different, so it is very much by age as well. So we really want to look at, so there's generally a bracket between, say, your 3 to 5 year old, you're looking
Mhm.
at somewhere between 10 to 13 hours per day, and I'm including naps here. That's where your optimal sleep is, versus a newborn, they're typically getting anywhere between 16 to 19 hours a day. And when we're looking, and when I say per day, I'm talking about a 24-hour period. When we're looking at sleep, we need to just remember sleep isn't just sleep. Sleep is so important for the epicenter of the brain. So restoration, working on your muscle repair. It's fixing your hormones. Strong links to your Alzheimer's, dementia. It protects and restores your immune response. So when we're looking at sleep, we can't just think of we're falling asleep and dozing off and waking the next day. So many things happen in that. So which is why it's so important for every parent to focus on their kids' sleep and their own sleep,
Mm.
because that is where we are preventing so many other issues arising. In terms of guidelines, yes, everyone is so different, and there's no guidelines per se other than the optimal sleep per age group, per child, per day. But we really just want to be enforcing kind, firm boundaries. And getting, consistency is key. Children are going to be guided by us. So I can't tell you how to run your household, but I can definitely guide you to ways that are going to get you and your children sleeping better.
I love that.
And yes,
Yeah.
everyone's approach is going to be very different.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about that. So is that essentially how you can help families through that guidance and recommendations based on their individual circumstances?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, everyone has their own sense, their own. What's the best way I should put this? Everyone has their own mindset. And I think there is a lot of a fear-based approach when people start using terminology around sleep training. There is a very strong focus out there for, attachment theory and nervous system regulation, which I wholeheartedly agree with on a surface level, right? Those things are both important. But can I tell you, all the data out there, and I've looked at a lot of studies when we're looking at sleep, there is no long-term data out there that suggests that sleep training your children will harm them and ruin your attachment with your bond.
Really
Because
interesting.
responsive parenting isn't just going to be affected at nighttime. It's during what happens during the day is the most important thing. So how we respond to our children, how we're regulated with them throughout the day, those are the things that are going to make the attachment stronger and a regulated household. And can I tell you, even when I do sleep, my children drive me crazy. Right? I love them. But if I haven't had that sleep, I'm definitely not I'm not operating at an optimal level that's going to be me regulated for them.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, brilliant. And so are there many myths? I mean, you just addressed some of those misconceptions in terms of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear such
Mm-hmm.
horror stories, Han, just in Phoenix's class, some kids allow their parents allow their kids, and I hate saying it because I feel very judgy, but some of them are going to bed at like 10 and 11 p.m. at night and then trying to wake up for school the next day. And, they're wondering why the attention is not there and misbehavior. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, and of course, technology nowadays, as they get older, that's another
Well,
goddamn
I think
battle.
when we become parents, we have to really remember that it is our responsibility to shape our little people. And it is really up to us to drive what they're eating, what they're exposed to, how they're sleeping. We can't expect a child to operate at optimal levels going to bed so late and waking up early. And then they're getting in trouble the next day because they're not behaving properly. Can I tell you, I'm lucky if I'm up past 9 o'clock at nighttime because I know that is not how I operate optimally thereafter.
Absolutely.
So we really, as parents, need to take that responsibility. As you said, screens are a massive issue out there now. I'm a screen-free household. Our eldest is just over the last 6 months. We'll give him 20 minutes to 40 minutes not per day, but about 3 times a week when the baby's asleep. And we're guiding what he's watching. Like there's no flashing in and out. There's Australia Zoo videos, or he's super into motocross. So we'll watch some of that stuff, dirt bike riding, but we're not flashing in and out. Like I really want to be making sure that his brain is operating properly.
I love it. So, from what you've gone through, it really is a very holistic approach. I think your coaching and counseling and services can be beneficial in so many different areas, and it creates such a ripple effect, doesn't it, into even their adulthood. These are things I wish that my parents had been, God love them, and everyone just tries to do their best based on their knowledge. But I wish there was more of this guidance to set the foundations as a child, because how does it affect them later on?
Well, I don't think people realize how much everything is so intertwined, right? So I actually listened to a fantastic podcast the other day with a neuro optometrist. And did you know 15 out of the 18 symptoms of ADHD are actually related to vision issues? So imagine all the, can you believe that? So imagine a kid in school or whatever. And remember, screens can directly influence this as well because we're highly exposing them to blue light from an early age. Our kids can't focus on anything, right? That was a very broad statement, but kids aren't able to focus on one thing at a time if they're constantly getting little dopamine hits here and there. So 15 out of 18 symptoms related to ADHD are vision problems. So we need to, before going to the doctor and getting your medications or mass diagnosing for ADHD or whatever that might be, let's look at the root cause of things. So people don't understand how much. So you've got your eyesight is directly correlated to longevity. Ovarian health is also directly affected to longevity. When you look at the heart has a massive correlation with your longevity, your brain. So when we're talking about Alzheimer's and dementia, there was the 2024 Lancet Commission on Dementia, and 45% of it, 45% of dementia and Alzheimer's cases were preventable. You know what wasn't included in that study? Sleep and nutrition. So imagine if sleep and nutrition were actually put into that study. So there are direct things. They're all just, everything affects everything. And we need to be really mindful of that as a society, because even when we're feeding our kids their lunchboxes at a young age is directly correlating to what it's like for them as a teenager, their brain function at a later age, all those things, they're so directly related.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like I could chat to you. We need to do a part two, by the way, because I think we could just unpack. So the questions in my head are like boom, 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 boom. So we're definitely doing a part two. So those
Perfect.
listening, stay tuned for part two. Because it's just God, there's so many questions I can ask, and we can unpack it further, and get really clear pictures of things. But I want to know, where can people find you? How can they connect with you? How can they start the process of becoming better versions of themselves, fundamentally and foundationally, but also they're little humans.
Yeah. So find me on Instagram, Halo Nutrition, and they can find me on my website at www.halonutritionandsleep.com.
Love the
So
name,
I'm offering one-on-one personalized packages for sleep support for 0 to 4 years old. I'm not yet offering my nutrition counseling, and only because I haven't officially finished my course yet. I've got, funnily enough, exercise and sport nutrition left, even though I've studied it through a different practitioner. So I'm not officially doing that, but you can definitely be guided through me with that. So you can find me there. You can drop me some DMs, follow me on the gram. And yeah, I'm always there for support and a chat.
I'm so excited to watch your space. And guys, I mean, if you haven't already connected with Hannah, please do. I highly, highly, highly recommend. She's very, very aligned, and it's hard to find consultants sometimes and practitioners who have been on their own journey. So everything resonates a bit more, and you have that lived experience, and you are currently living it. So you're going through challenges and
I'm in the
pushback from
trenches.
you're in the trenches with the little humans. So and you're surrounded by a community as well. So oh my goodness, thank you. There will be a part two. I'm so excited to unpack
Thanks,
this.
Desi.
Thanks, Hannah. I appreciate it.
Big love.